Hi, Matt. How you doing?
Doing well, Carl. How are you? Sorry, man. I'm trying to get my things situated there. How are you,
Yeah,
Carl?
no worries. I'm good, man. Really good. Really good. Hey,
Awesome.
I'm closing on my first real estate purchase like within the next week. I'm
That's
really
that's what I
excited.
heard. So is it a sub two in Austin?
No, it's in Florida.
Okay, cool.
It's amazing.
So
So
yeah.
he's a sub two student.
Uh-huh.
He's a sub two student that I reached out and I um I was talking to my wife about it. So I need to get a place in America,
Hmm.
and I wanted something that I could sub to. So I wanted something that I could Airbnb. A lot of the houses I was looking at, the HOAs don't allow it. So this guy messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I own a house in Kissimmee, near to Disney World.
Hmm.
It's an existing Airbnb. It cash flows like crazy. He showed me all the stats, and he said that so the house is worth about 700K. He said, I'll sell it to you for what I bought it for, which was 628.
Okay.
It's got a 428 mortgage on it. He said, sub to the mortgage, pay me 50,000 down, and then I'll sell or finance the rest of the equity over 30 years. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, and it's fully furnished. It's all brand new stuff. Like, you can
Yeah.
have it. And I just went, okay. And he said, well, do you want to go and view the house? I'm like, no, just fucking, I'll buy it. So he sent me the
Yeah.
pics, and it's very Disney-fied. It's got six
Yeah.
bedrooms, right? It's got three doubles with en suites. And then it's got these three theme rooms for kids, like all the fucking Disney wallpaper and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it's what I love about it, right? It's part of a country club community, and
Hmm.
it's in a really awesome. It's like 200 meters from the country club, which is really nice. And it's got this beautiful pool out the back that's all screened, and it backs onto a lake. So you've got this amazing picture. Let me show you the picture. It's badass. Anyway, I think we're closing on it on Friday, and then next
Love.
week I'm going out there en route. I'm in Vegas next weekend, and at an event. So I'm going to go and stay there for a few days.
I
But
love it. It'll be
that's
cool
the
to get it and stay in your new sub two.
that's the back.
Yeah, man, that's amazing.
You got the
Yeah, it's
pool,
amazing.
and then it backs out onto the lake. That's the country club that it's part of. But the
Nice.
HOA is $4,000 a year, but you get access to the country club. So it makes you can put the Airbnb prices up, and then it's your standard cookie cutter Florida house. It's like I wouldn't buy it to live in it, but um, it's a really cool house.
Yeah, it's a cool house.
It's
Yeah.
got six bedrooms, two lounges, four bathrooms.
It'll make for a fantastic Airbnb.
Yeah, it's fucking $50,000, man. It's like
So have you got all of the stuff set into place to be able to automate your Airbnb process?
so. What I've done is I'm hiring somebody to do all that because this guy Justin he does it all on his own, and I'm like I don't want to be asked with that shit. So he referred me to a guy in Sub Two called JB who's
Yep.
in Kissimmee and manages tons and tons of like Airbnbs, VRBOs, Booking.com type stuff. So he was looking at the stats. He's like, dude, we'll fucking blow this up. He said, if I said, look, give me 3 or 4 weeks of the year for me to stay there. Rest of the time, just smash it. So we reckon it'll probably cash flow. It'll cash flow between $4,000 and $5,000 a month, I think, conservatively.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's really all dependent upon how you set it up on the inside, right? But I mean, cash flow is normally in that area right around 4 or 5K. But if you set it up really, really nice, you can get out there to 8 to 10K on it. I mean, that's nothing. That's not outside the box of something that's
One of the things
doable.
I might do though, right, is I know a guy in Orlando that sells like reconditioned arcade machines. So I might buy some of those and put them in the garage. It's like a garage that looks like a room. I might put them all on the back wall and do all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. Uh,
amazing.
so yeah,
I love that.
we'll see how it goes, and then yeah, I'll fucking buy as many of these as I can find. If
Yeah.
I can buy a $700,000 house for 50K, fully furnished,
Uh-huh.
I'll buy 100 of those fuckers. Like, just give them to me. I'll buy them all. Um,
And the key is the places that you're buying make really good, Austin, Florida, they're great Airbnbs. Yeah.
yeah. So
I've been
Austin,
looking for you in Austin, by the way. I'm just looking for the right place
yeah.
because I
So
kind of have
Austin's
an idea.
definitely next on my buy box. With Austin though, I might even if I can't short term rental it, it wouldn't stop me buying it
Mhm.
because I could do like a long term rental on it, or we just I've just had a term sheet for $50 million for that econ folio project.
Mhm.
So once that funding kicks in, um, I might just buy a place out there. Because one of the things like that I've been thinking about is because I'm not domiciled yet in the US, I don't have any US credit. I
Mhm.
found a guy that I found a bank that will loan me money. It's called a bank statement loan, right?
Mhm.
So if I give my bank statements to this bank, um, they'll lend me money off the strength of that. I've always got cash in my bank accounts. So
Mhm.
I've found this house actually in Austin. It's near to where my business partner lives. It's about $750,000. It's fucking brand new. It's stunning with views. I could probably put 250 down, borrow the 500, but then I wouldn't rent that out. I'd probably just live in it.
Mhm.
I'd probably just live in it, but we'll see. I'm having fun with this sub two stuff. I've not watched a single video. I've not been on a single Zoom. I'm just fucking
Yeah.
winging it. Uh,
Yeah.
but this guy is a lovely guy. He's called Justin. He's a lovely guy. He's like coaching me through the whole process. Like, we're in escrow now, and we're just wait. As soon as the HOA comes back in my name, I can close on this thing.
Done.
And then what? And then he's going to join Protege, and I've said that I'll help him on the business deal side because he's helped me like a lot on this. To walk me through like
Absolutely.
every step of the process, and I've learned like a ton by doing it, not watching videos, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I was very much the same way. Like anybody that, I guess like I told you my story, but as I ended up being a homeless vet and coming out of that, I very much I was doing sub two before I ever knew what sub two actually was, right? And then I ran into this guy who helped me along the way here in Houston, but he owns a little over 200 doors. He just been an investor is, and but he's all self-taught, sub two, seller finance. And I got into this stuff and started investing, and then I was, pace was the natural progression of it. But yeah, I'm very much, like you, I'm a fail forward and figure it out as I go kind of person. And it's not only led from owning property and doing that, but now I'm into the private money lending realm, and I'm actually mixed up in a fail forward situation right now where we loaned a guy on a $1.8 million deal in California in the Corona Del Mar area. And we did all of our due diligence, and then come to find out later on down the road, this guy is an absolute con artist. And yeah, I ended up having to use some friends that are still in the government, but I tracked down an FBI special prosecutor who knows who this guy is. And so, anyways, yeah, we're having to chase him down for our money. And it's come down to the point where, it's just been a learning experience every step of the way. But I'm telling him, if you think you're going to get away with my money, my friend, you're not. I'm gonna throw a lease pendants on that place, and I'm gonna own that property by the time it's over.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So, man, like, I'm really happy that you decided to come in and talk with me today. I wanted to obviously record this for our podcast.
Sure.
Um, And so our podcast, it reaches out to entrepreneurs and what it's called is a creative collective. And we bring in entrepreneurs that think outside of the box, that do it differently. They figure out how to build wealth in a different way. And that's very much what you've done. So I know you get a lot of this all the time, but let's tell everybody a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll kind of lead into some of the other stuff because I have some,
Sure.
I think, really interesting and different questions that I want to approach you with than what most have.
Sure. So I've been a deal maker for 31 years. I left college in 92 and I went to work for a Wall Street investment bank. So I worked for Bank of America doing mergers and acquisitions. So I did deals with like GE, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and then transitioned more into the technology space as the tech industry kind of blew up through the 90s. So did deals for like IBM, Microsoft, those types of companies. Left the investment bank in the early 2000s, went and got my MBA at the University of Chicago, and I got a job in private equity. We'd invested in a technology business, which we ended up selling to Hewlett Packard. It was a software company. And then I went along with the deal. So my last real job was doing deals for HP, billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of acquisitions. And then my whole life changed on one day on the 1st of February 2008. So I'm in a boardroom in Moscow, in Russia, trying to buy this business from the Russian mafia, actually, but that's a different story. And my wife calls me. I don't know if you remember back in the late 2000s. Do you remember the old Motorola flip phones? So I had a
Yes.
Motorola flip phone and it was on the desk in this boardroom and it was buzzing and buzzing along the desk, right? And it was my wife calling me. My wife was 36 weeks pregnant at the time and she's calling me and calling me and calling me like every 30 seconds. So I picked up the phone. I'm like, hey, I'm in the middle of this closing. I can't speak. She says, well, I don't really care what you're doing. This little guy's coming out. Like, you got to get home right now. He's going to be born like soon. So I ran out of this meeting room. I had my phone, my wallet, and my passport on me. My luggage and my computer are still there. I think I've never been back. Got to the airport. My CEO, bless him, Mark Hurd, who's no longer with us, lent me his Gulfstream. It's the only time I've ever been in a Gulfstream. So I flew home on a Gulfstream back to the UK, had a police escort from the plane straight to the hospital, and I made it. I made it with like 5 minutes to spare. My wife, bless her, held on, and my little guy came out. So I'm holding my little guy, and he's really tiny because he's 4 weeks still cooking in the oven. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'd made a lot of money as a corporate M&A guy, so I retired. I walked away from multiple seven figures in bonuses and options at HP, and I quit. And after about 3 weeks, I was kind of tearing my hair out. I said to my wife, I need to do something with my life. I can't just retire. I don't have any hobbies. So she said, well, you don't have any skills apart from buying and selling businesses. You're one of the best in the world at doing deals. Why don't you become a business broker? So I did. And I hate brokers, right? So I set myself up as a business broker. I found a company to sell. It was a transport company. It was doing about $5 million in revenues. But instead of selling it, I bought it. They wanted a safe pair of hands to take the business on, and all of the buyers I found them were corporates that would have ripped it apart. So I did a deal where I bought it using creative financing, and that was my first ever individual kind of deal as doing it on my own. So that deal taught me something really interesting. What it taught me is that when you do a Wall Street deal, it's all about math. It's all about financial engineering. When you're doing a Main Street deal, when you're buying a business in the $1 to $5 million range, it's a lot more about seller psychology. It's a lot more about understanding what the seller truly wants and then building a deal around that. My seller wanted the brand to continue, the employees to stay, and the customers to be continued to be treated in a great situation. And all the trade buyers that were offering more money wouldn't have done that. So I just gave them what they want. So I took that business on. I gave 30% of it to the employees. And then 3 years later, once I'd paid the finance off to buy it, we refied the deal and I cashed out. And they still own that business. They've done bolt-on acquisitions since, which is really, really cool. And then it set me off on a path of doing deals. So I probably bought 100 businesses in the past 15 years. And then about 5 years ago, I saw somebody online teaching this stuff, right? So I bought the program and I just thought, this is absolutely so bad. Like, I can do this a million times better. So I created my own training program and I started selling it online. And I've got about 11,500 students now in Dealmaker Wealth Society. And then about 18 months ago, I launched an inner circle mentorship called Protege, of which I'm absolutely thrilled that you're one of my Protege students. And today we have about 500 Proteges, mostly in the US, but we've got them in the UK, in Germany, Australia, Canada as well. And there's deals closing every day. And a lot of it's around creative financing, 100% seller financing deals. A lot of people are doing SBA deals, raising equity capital as well. And it's great to be a coach and teach this stuff, because what it also gives me is crazy deal flow, because I can't be looking under every rock in every town and city in the world. So I've got this army of deal makers that are going out there and they're finding deals. In a lot of cases, they're buying them themselves, and that's amazing. That's what the program's designed for. But every couple of days, I get a message like, "Hey, Carl, I found this deal. It's a little bit too hard bucket for me. I need a partner. Are you in?" So every business that I'm buying right now, and every business that I've bought in the last 6 months, I've bought with a Protege, and it's amazing. So it's absolutely amazing. So, and I've got my private equity company as well, Kings of Deals. So we're doing 5 roll-ups in lots of different industries. As you know, I'm doing a massive billion-dollar roll-up in the female health and beauty e-com space. Just got a term sheet for a $50 million line of equity. And then I've got a $125 million Wall Street facility as well when I IPO that business, probably 12 to 18 months from now. So loads of really cool stuff going on.
Yeah, 100%. And you were just in New York on that, I believe.
I was, yeah.
Week or so ago. Amazing, right? You and Ross.
Yeah, we were in New York for 4 days with our investment bank, our financial partners, and we looked at some deals as well. So yeah, I love New York. So crazy story though. I took Ross to Wall Street because a lot of the financial firms now in New York are not on Wall Street. They're near Central Park. They're in Midtown, right? They're on they're on 6th Avenue, right? But Ross said to me, "Hey, take me to Wall Street." So we went down to Wall Street. I showed him the bank. I showed him the Bank of America building where I used to work. And then I took him in the Irish pub just off Wall Street where I used to go drinking. And it's exactly the same as it was in the 90s when I used to go in.
And nothing's changed. Yeah.
And there's this chair in the corner where I remember once I'd worked 3 days straight on a deal with no sleep. We'd closed this deal and I went into the bar and I was drinking Guinness, and the chair that I fell asleep on is still there. They had to wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the chair's still there, exactly the same. The only difference is it's not $2 a beer anymore. It's like $15 a beer. So,
yeah. But I feel like you should have carved your initials into that chair.
Yeah,
it's like
I know. That was my deal chair.
So one of the things I find really interesting about you, Carl, because I'm a veteran, right? And I've had a really unique opportunity, having been a disabled vet and injured in Iraq, to meet quite a few of these like kind of prolific vets like Jocko and David Goggins. And I've actually met these guys and hung out with them a little bit. Not friends, I wouldn't say. We're not going over to each other's houses, but I've got to sit down and learn who they are. What is the draw? Because I find that you're really drawn to guys like David Goggins and Jocko Willink, and I'd love to see how that correlates and fits into your life.
Yeah, so it's really interesting actually. So I've become a student over the past 5 years of mental toughness, right? Because I'm interested in it. And I've read every book on mental toughness, that there is. And this journey for me started about 5 years ago. It was a Sunday night, and I wasn't going through a tough time, but I wasn't like, it was just before I decided to become a coach. I wasn't like massively fulfilled in my life. I was doing all these deals, I was making so much money, but kind of wasn't happy. And I was a bit of an arsehole, especially around my family and my friends. And I just wasn't like a great person. And I went to bed early on the Sunday, and I watched this documentary on Netflix called "I'm Not Your Guru," and it's about Tony Robbins and an event that Tony Robbins has called Date with Destiny, right? So I watched that documentary, and I thought, I'm going to have myself a little bit of this, $5,000 to go to the event. So I paid the money, I went to the event, and I changed a lot. My value systems changed. I came out of it being very kind of materially focused, and came out being very kind of wanting to help people, wanting to contribute, and having different values. One of the other things that event taught me was about how to build an unshakable mindset, how to build mental toughness in a way that nothing kind of phases you. So from that point, I started studying, the concept. I started reading books by Tim Grover, who was the coach of Michael Jordan and Kobe and all those guys. And then I got onto Jocko, reading all his stuff. And what I love about Jocko, the biggest takeaway for me from studying Jocko, is his kind of position around extreme ownership, where if something goes wrong, I'll take 100% responsibility for it, whether it's in one of my businesses, whether it's in my family, whether it's in my protege mentoring program, whatever. I'll take extreme ownership of that stuff. And then I love David Goggins. So read all David's books, read all of his, other things, watched all his YouTube things. And it's funny, actually, last week, David Goggins really kind of played a part for me. So I went on a cycling trip to northern Spain. So I'm on my race bike, cycling around northern Spain, and the mountains around there are fucking brutal, right? And I'm with some really fit guys, and we're cycling 75, 80 kilometers a day for 3 straight days. And on the third day, I'm like dying, right? I've got over 200 kilometers in my legs, and it was the final 25 Ks of the third day, and my body was broken. I'm bleeding out of my butthole, no joke. And I'm absolutely wrecked. And it took me back to one of Goggins' books, where he talks about going to war with your mind, right? And he's doing one of his 300, I think it was like a 300-kilometer ultra marathon he was running. And it was at a point where his body's like secreting all this stuff, and the guy's like dying. And that's how I felt. But that got me up the final mountain and kind of back home. So I had to David Goggins the shit out of the second half of the final day, and it got me through. And I finished, and my wife was there with her friends who were married to my other cycling friends, who were a lot younger and fitter than me. And my wife said to me, I can't believe at 52 years of age, you've been able to do that. You've really surprised me that your physicality in your body has allowed you to do that. And I said, well, hey, this has got nothing to do with my body, and this is all about my mind. I had to go to war with my mind and do this. My body gave up 2.5 days ago, right? But my mind didn't. So, and these lessons have served me in business. They've served me with my family. They've served me in athletics. And yeah, I think the more people that learn this stuff and can kind of pay it forward, like I'm teaching my kids this stuff as well, because it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So what interests me about it, right? Because I live my life by a lot of those same principles. Obviously, 16 years in the military, it was just ground into me. But, you know, in terms of deal making, as I've come into Protege, I find that anybody that believes that doing something like this is easy is really mistaken. They come in, I'm going to join a mastermind. It's going to be easy because I'm going to have Carl's help. And yeah, Carl will help you and make it easier, but you still have to do the work,
You've
right?
still got to do the
So
reps.
so let's talk about that, right? That
Yeah.
mental toughness and how it plays into doing the reps to make the deals happen.
Yeah, so there's a number of layers to this. So I think the first thing is, buying businesses is not hard. It just takes a little bit of hard work. So, like deal making, buying businesses with no money, it's what I call a get rich slow scheme. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Takes some work, takes some effort, takes some discipline, takes the reps, right? Which is why in Protege, we have you do what we have you do. You're doing the reps every single week. And I liken deal making in Protege to like building muscle in a gym. So if your goal was to build muscle, what you've got to do is you've got to go to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week. You've got to do a certain number of sets, a certain number of reps, lifting a certain number of weights. And then once you're done, you put the proper fuel into your body. And if you consistently do that 3, 4, 5 times a week over 6 months, it's biologically impossible for you not to build muscle. It just is. And it's the same with doing deals. If you originate deals every week, you meet sellers every week, and you make offers every week, and you're building the right relationships with financiers, if the deals need upfront capital, I'm talking SBA banks, I'm talking family offices, I'm talking angel investors, I'm talking private money lenders, all the stuff that you know. If you're doing all those things and you're doing it consistently every single week over a period of time, you biologically can't fail to buy a business. It's just doing the things. And this was a methodology that Tony Robbins mentored me for a little bit. I was in his platinum partnership after that first event. And one of the things that Tony teaches you is something called RPM. And it's a goal setting philosophy. It's results focus, which is the R, purpose driven, which is the P, massive action plan, which is the M. So there's 3 things you need to achieve any goal. You need a clearly defined outcome that you want to achieve. That's pretty easy as long as you get granular and it's called a SMART goal, be very specific and measurable and all that stuff. So most people can do that. Most people have the action plan. Well, it's go on Protege calls, watch these videos, do this work, do these reps. Everyone can do that. The big missing piece is the why, the purpose, the fuel, because that stops people quitting when things get hard, whether it's going to the gym and building muscle, whether it's buying a business, whether it's starting a business, whatever you're doing in life, you need to have that purpose. You need to have that leverage over yourself. And it's all about figuring out, I can't stay in the position I'm at. So I've either got to go up. What does that feel like? How's that going to make me feel? And then dialing those emotions into your central nervous system. And then on the contrary, how much is life going to suck if I don't do that and I'm stuck in the same position 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now? And it's dialing that in terms of your mindset, so that every time you come up against an obstacle, it's remembering why you're doing it, right? So, story about me in life. About 10 years ago, my son Josh would have been 5, and I was a massive smoker, right? So I used to smoke 40 cigarettes a day, the hard
Oh
stuff.
my
And I
gosh.
literally would smoke. And I would, yeah, and my lungs were wrecked, right? And I couldn't quit. I tried hypnotherapy, I tried gum, I tried injections, tried it all, patches, couldn't quit. So there was this one day, I'm on a conference call on a deal, and I'm outside in the garden for an hour, walking around the garden on a call, closing this deal. And I went through a whole pack of 20 cigarettes in that 1 hour. And I came into the house and I must have like stack of cigarettes. And my wife said to me, "That's it. You got to quit. There's no way you can't continue." And I'm like, "No way. I'm good. Don't worry about it." So I went to my room, my study at home, and I open the window and I'm having a cigarette and I'm doing my stuff. All of a sudden, my 5-year-old son comes in and he's absolutely heartbroken. He's crying his eyes. He's like, "Dad." I'm like, "Joshy," like my best friend, "what's wrong?" He's like, "I don't want you to die." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Mum says you're going to die because you keep smoking these cigarettes and you're not going to be able to see me play soccer and you're not going to see me go to college and you're not going to see me get married and do all these amazing things." She fed him with all this crazy stuff, my wife.
Yeah.
And that was it. I have never put a cigarette in my mouth since that very day because all of a sudden my mindset shifted, right? My mindset shifted. And I thought, well, if I keep smoking and I die, some other guy is going to come. He's going to be sleeping in my bed with my wife. He's going to be living in my amazing house. He's going to be taking my son to soccer games and doing all this amazing stuff. Fuck that shit. Like,
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I had a reason. And that was it. And I vape from time to time,
Mhm.
but I don't smoke. And now I've got the lungs, because I exercise a lot, I've got the lungs of a 35-year-old, and I'm 52. So I just needed that purpose, that why to kind of make that decision. And it's the same when you're buying a business. Some people go into Protege, and they're stuck in a 9 to 5. And they hate working for other people, and they don't want to start a business. They'd rather buy a business because you can walk into cash flow on day one, and they just need to dial in. What does that mean? Because nobody really wants to buy or own a business. We want the benefits that being a business owner, gives to us. I own 26 companies today, and I don't work in any of them. And on the 15th and the last day of the month, I get paid, and I'm stacking these distributions from my companies. So that gives me freedom. It gives me an immense amount of pride. It gives me a phenomenal work-life balance. It means I can spend money in my family, in my community, and make the world a better place. I can do all those different things. So that's why I continue to do it. That's my purpose. And that's what we do in Protege, is really dialing that in, because everybody's got different reasons, why they want to do this. Because it's not all about money. Money's only a tool, right?
Mhm.
Money's a tool to help you do things. It's an instrument of good. It can also be an instrument of bad. Most people come in and say, "Hey, I just want to do deals. I want to make loads and loads of money." Well, that's great, but money's not what you want. It's what money can do for you. Do you want to buy things? Do you want to take care of people? Do you want to contribute? What are you going to do with that kind of that next level of financial resources? So once you dial that in, and you get that inner purpose, that helps you push through and follow through when you hit kind of roadblocks. And there's always roadblocks in deals. There's always challenges that kind of present themselves. But if you're dialed in like Goggins or Jocko or Andy Frisella, or Tim, and you're like, "No, you know what? My mission is greater than this obstacle. I'm going to push through it." And that's what we do.
Yeah, I love that. So if we're looking at this progression of your life and going through deals and mental toughness, and now here we are doing deals. So let's talk about something that's like near and dear. We started the 30-day challenge with the annuity deal and the protege program, but let's talk about a little bit about what those deals actually look like, right? And I know we've got SPA and annuity, but if you could just kind of touch base into some of those things once you've made it through, you've got this deal, and now I'm going to do an annuity deal. How should I look at structuring this? What was your mindset around coming up with the annuity deal, all of that?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. So I've always done seller financing deals. Seller financing deals have been around since the dawn of time. A seller financing deal, for listeners that don't know what that is you buying a business and paying for it over time, and you're using the cash flow that the business produces to make those payments, right? Like you would lease a car, or you would lease a cell phone, or pay for a mortgage on a house, right? You're paying for something in future installments. So the word annuity deal is really just a repositioning of that type of deal structure. And it kind of came from two colliding variables. So the first thing was about a year ago, I'm on a phone call with a seller of a web design stroke SEO agency. And those businesses, the business was doing about $400,000 a year in profit, which is what we often call SDE. And that type of business is generally worth about a 2.5 times multiple. So that business is worth $1 million, right? So this guy had a $2 million price tag on his business, wanted a 5 times multiple. So I'm talking to the seller and I said, hey, your businesses like yours generally sell for about 2.5x. You're asking for 5. You must have like the best business in the market for what you're doing to command such a premium valuation. Why don't you talk to me about that? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Multiples of profit? Like, I don't know anything about that. I just called my wealth manager to value my business for me. And I said, well, okay, now that's really interesting. CPAs value businesses. Wealth managers invest the proceeds of the sale of a business. A wealth manager is qualified to value a business. He said, well, I said to my wealth manager, look, I'm going to retire when I sell this business, and I need X thousand dollars a month for at least the next 10 years to maintain my current lifestyle. Because one of the problems in America is the vast majority of baby boomers or entrepreneurs that come to sell their businesses, they don't really have a lot in retirement savings. The average retirement pot of a business owner is only $202,000. So that's not enough to have them retire. So their retirement pot is really their business. So what this guy said to me, he said, I called my wealth manager, said I need X thousand dollars a month for at least the next 10 years to live my life. So what do I need to sell my business for? So he reverse engineered the math and thought, well, you need this big whopping closing payment. Then you're going to pay an insane amount of tax. Then you're going to take that money, you're going to reinvest that in like a Fidelity money market account or a Roth or an IRA or whatever it is. And then you're going to pay tax and fees on the income. And then what's left is this X thousand dollars a month that you need. So that's why we valued the business at $2 million, not $1 million. I said, okay. I said, well, what if I just make you those payments? What if I just give you those annuity payments? So rather than you selling the business up front, which by the way is not going to happen, no one's going to pay 5x this type of business. You might get 3 if you're lucky. So then you're going to get 1.2 million. You're probably going to lose a third of that in tax. And then you're going to invest that and pay fees. You're not going to get the amount of money that you need. So why don't I just pay you, I think it was about $12,000 a month. Why don't I just pay you the $12,000 a month for 10 years? And I will give you a lien on the business. So if I miss a payment, you can take the business back. So he said, that's really, really interesting. He said, so I can get exactly the same outcome by selling the business to you, and you're just going to pay me every single month by giving me a share of the free cash flow. I said, correct. He said, so the only thing I got to think about then is my money safer invested in my own business, or is my money safer being invested in the stock market? I said, well, you tell me. He said, well, I know my business. I know you're the perfect fit to buy the business. That's a lot safer for me than giving my money to somebody that I don't really know, and they're off doing all the things that they're doing that I have no control over. And if I've got a lien and a performance guarantee from you as the owner of my business, that's a lot safer. So we did that deal. So it's all in the positioning. It's all in the positioning. And at the end of the day, deal making comes down to one simple fact. Find out what the outcome is of the seller and build your deal around that. 4 years ago, I did an annuity deal. We didn't call it annuity deals then. It was a company called Radio Express. It was a marketing agency in the radio industry in Burbank, California. So flew out. I'd been talking to the seller on the phone, went out to see her, lived just off Mulholland Drive in the Hollywood Hills. So I went to see her, sat down, and I'd looked at all the numbers, and I was kind of good on the valuation. And I said to her, she's called Barbara. I said, so Barbara, tell me what a deal looks like for you to get this done. What would have to be true for us to close this deal? She said, well, Carl, I've got three deal points. I'm like, okay. Now, normally they say deal point 1 is I want X amount of money. Deal point 2 is I want so much of it at closing. And deal point 3 is these are the terms on the rest, which is seller financing. That's normally what sellers come back. She said, here are my 3 deal points. Deal point number 1, you can't change the name of the business. I'm like, okay. I was expecting a dollar number, but no, you can't change the name of the business. I said, well, tell me about that. Not that I ever would. It's crazy. I said, well, tell me about that. She said, well, I've heard of the people that sell their companies and the buyers change the names and then they fail because all the brand, the reputation, the social equity in the market evaporates. So this business has been around since 1985. It's very, very well known in the industry. Deal point 1, you can't change the name. Got it. What's deal point number 2? This is where the money comes in. It says deal point number 2, you can't change the logo. I'm like, logo was pretty bad. I said, well, why can't I change the logo? She said, well, because in 1985, it won an international design competition. So this business, and I'd never heard of this person until I did this deal. So back in the 80s and 90s, there was a very famous disc jockey in America called Casey Kasem. And Casey Kasem was one of the original partners in this business when it was started with Barbara and her husband Tom, right? So they designed this logo and it had won this award and they were really, really proud of this logo. So she said, deal point number 2, can't change the logo. I went, okay, we're not changing the name, we're not changing the logo. What's the final deal point, i.e. how much? She said, deal point number 3, and this is the most important deal point, Carl. Okay, what is it? She said, you can't fire any of my employees. I want that written into the legal contract. I went, okay. Well, tell me about that. She said, well, I've heard stories of people selling businesses, buyers come in, and they fire everybody because they got their own people, got their own teams. I said, well, I don't own a business in this space right now. I'm going to do bolt-on acquisitions. In fact, the CEO that I want to come in and run this business for me has a smaller version of your business. So we're going to tuck his business into this, and then he and I are going to go 50-50 on the ownership. She said, well, that's great, but you can't let any of my employees go. They're like my family. None of them really want to buy and own it, but they will run through brick walls for you as the new owner. So I said, okay. I said, so if I don't change the name, I don't change the logo, and I don't fire any employees, can I buy this business from you in stage payments? She said, absolutely. If you give me the 3 things I want, we can structure this deal any way you see fit. I said, okay. So we agreed a payment schedule, 0 money down. And then she paused and she said, I've only got one stipulation. I said, what is it? She said, I'm going to have a $10,000 legal cost. Would you pay that if I leave you enough cash in the business? Absolutely. So we got that deal done because I just listened to what she wanted, what her conditions were, and none of them were financial. The money to her was secondary. The primary was protecting the business, protecting her legacy, protecting the employees, and protecting the culture of the business that she'd built. So as a deal maker, if you really elicit what a seller truly wants and you map a deal around that, it will blow your mind how little the conversation gets to money. And this was an off-market deal. So there's no broker yabbing in her ear. This was an off-market deal, built a great relationship, built know, like, and trust. She saw me as what I call that safe, trusted pair of hands. And it was a fantastic deal. And then I owned that business for about 2 years, spent absolutely no time in that business at all. We'd done a couple of bolt-ons. And then about 2 years in, my business partner, Paul, called me up one day and said, hey, I can go and get an SBA loan. I want to buy you out. I said, let's go. Happy to sell. So I sold. I said, hey, I'll do a annuity deal with you as well. He's like, no, I'll get you the money. So we did an SBA loan and bought out my 50%, which was really, really cool.
Yeah, very cool. So we've talked about past, we've talked about present. Let's talk about future. So what do you see moving forward into the future for yourself, for your family, for deal maker, for kind of everybody that surrounds you now, all of these proteges? I'm interested to see what the vision is.
Yeah, so I want to go for at least another 10 years. I've retired twice before and I hated it. So I definitely want to keep going. I don't need to work financially, but I love what I do. I feel like I'm living my mission. So I've got two goals on the business side. One is I'm doing a bunch of roll-ups right now. Each one will go through an IPO onto the NASDAQ. The Ecom Folio Health and Beauty Women Ecom roll-up will happen first. So I'm doing all these deals with proteges, by the way. So I'm doing all the roll-ups, and then my goal is to massively grow and expand Protege. I'd like to have at least 8 to 10,000 Protege students within the next 3 to 5 years. A bit like what Pace has done with Sub 2. Want to build that community up to be a lot wider. And then in September of this year, we're creating like a much kind of higher level program, which will be a larger investment, but that will be like a real true inner circle of probably maximum 30 or 40 people, where there'll be weekly one-on-one coaching. There'll be access to all of my investor network. It'll be a lot of like people want to come in, do deals. We'll get all the financing organized for you. We can help you with deal flow. We can connect you with all of the lawyers and CPAs that we use for closing. So a bit more of a done for you service. And ironically, this is something that proteges have told me that they want. It's like, hey, we want this much more hardcore next level style program. And that's what we're going to build. We're actually tooling it up right now, hiring lots of different coaches, getting preferred financiers on board, lawyers, CPAs, all those things as well. And that's going to get launched later on this year at the Atlanta event that we're doing for proteges. Hope to see you there. And so it's building the coaching division and then doing the deals through my private equity company. So that's my goal. In terms of family, I've got 5 children and 1 grandchild. My eldest is 30. My youngest is 15. My 26-year-old son is getting married in 5 weeks in Australia. So I'm going down under for
Congrats.
that.
Congrats on
And
that.
you know what's really cool about that? That's going to be such a proud day for me, um, because I'm going to the wedding as his dad, as his best man, and as his business partner, because he and I
That's
own a
pretty cool.
company in Australia, right?
That's pretty cool.
So very, very, very special day for me, and I'm taking the entire family with me. It's cost me a fortune, but hey, it's one distribution from one
It's worth
company
it.
a month, so it's
It's
no big
worth
deal.
it.
It's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. Man, it's so awesome. And I guess we'll start to bring it to a close. But for me to you, Carl, I want to thank you, right, as being part of the protege program.
Welcome.
I think it's amazing how somebody is so willing, even though they don't have to work. They're financially where they need to be, their family where they need to be, but they continue to give back, right? That has truly been my mission, right? As a homeless vet, I always feel that the number one and most important thing is to give back, right? And so I thank you for your time. Time is the most important thing we have.
You're more than welcome, my friend.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Carl. And hey, at the end of this, Carl, because you're recording, it won't allow me to. So can you send me the recording? That way I can post it. I'm
Yes.
going to do some brief editing to it.
Yep.
But then I'll post it across YouTube and Spotify and all of those
We'll do,
channels.
man. Yeah, I'll send you the MP4 file. I'll load it to Google Drive, then send you the link.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Carl. I
All right,
appreciate
mate.
all your time and everything you do,
See you,
man.
see you soon, buddy.
Bye.
Bye bye.